guest is the Vice President of Communications and External Relations at Gift of Life Michigan, one of 295 shared Detroit-supported charities and counting, as well as nonprofits. Patrick Wells O'Brien joins us now on the Michigan Megacast. Patrick, thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me, Tyler.
Appreciate having you on. So first off, give us a little bit of an introduction to the background and the history of Gift of Life of Michigan. Who do you serve and what services do you provide?
Well, thank you. Gift of Life Michigan is our state's federally designated organ and tissue procurement organization. So what that basically means is that from the moment of a donor being able to have the potential to be an organ donor to when the transplant center performs that transplant, Gift of Life Michigan is responsible for that entire recovery process. We also are responsible for maintaining the Michigan Organ Donor Registry, and we do that in partnership with the Michigan Secretary of State. So when you go in and you renew your driver's license, they ask you, would you like to have your name added to the Michigan Organ Donor Registry? And we hope everybody in Michigan says yes, because when you do, that really provides the life-saving opportunity to combat this list of 2,500 Michiganders waiting right now for a life-saving organ.
Well, people think about it, too. They think about there's so many people in Michigan. They know that the organ donor registry can be done through the Secretary of State's office when you're renewing your license or when you're updating your license or anytime, really. You can join the Michigan Organ Donor Registry. And so they may think, right, well, there's tons of people in Michigan. There's probably plenty of organ donors that are in the registry. But what exactly is the need in Michigan for organ donations at any given time?
Well, and that is it. The need is great. And those 2,500 Michiganders are a part of a list of more than 100,000 people across the United States who are right now waiting for that life-saving organ. One organ donor has the potential to save up to 8 lives: heart, lungs, kidneys, 2 lungs, intestine, liver, pancreas, plus one donor can improve the life of up to 75 others: eye and cornea, tendons, skin for burn victims. And people think that organ donation is something I'm too old, or I'm too this, or I'm too that. And we have recovered life-saving gifts from people in their 90s. So to that person on the waiting list, that person who's waiting for something, our own citizens in our own state, our own friends and neighbors, I'm sure all of your listeners know of someone who has at one point or another either benefited from an organ or a tissue transplant. And there is no, at this point in our technology, there is no other way for people to survive. Unless someone is generous enough to just simply say yes. When we have donor families talk about how meaningful it is for their loved, the tragedy of death, and this provides this silver lining to say, my loved one can provide the legacy of life for someone else. I can't take my organs with me, and why not help someone else?
So I'm on the Organ Donor Registry here in the state of Michigan, and there are many others who also join me in the Michigan Organ Donor Registry who have done so through the Secretary of State when they've renewed their license or through another process in which they're able to join the Organ Donor Registry. But many don't know exactly what the process is of your organs actually being donated, because in some cases there is tragedy that strikes and somebody dies, and then their organs are donated maybe right there at the hospital. They're extracted and then put into the registry. But there are other cases as well where people die of natural causes, and then their organs are then gone into the registry. So how is that process then enacted? Someone's on the registry. What happens on the medical side of things when that person does pass away and their organs then go into the registry to be used to save those lives?
Sure. So when you're on the registry, what you're doing is you're allowing your wishes to be an organ donor. You're allowing it to be known, and that telling your family and friends is also a great way to make sure your wishes are known. And it's very rare for a death to result in the opportunity for organ donation, because you have to be in a very specific set of circumstances for the recovery to occur. And most of the time, that means brain death. And 2% of deaths qualify. You have to be on a ventilator and you have to be declared brain dead in order for you're dead, but your vitals are still, organs are still being sustained in order for donation to be possible. There is also a way with a cardiac death, and if our team is right there, then it's possible for the recovery of organs in those situations. With tissue, we have the potential for many more donors than in those circumstances. There's a longer period of time that we have the opportunity to recover those life-saving gifts.
We're joined by Patrick Wells O'Brien, the Vice President of Communications and External Relations at Gift of Life of Michigan, one of 295 Share Detroit supported charities and nonprofits. Here on the Michigan Megacast. More information by visiting sharedetroit.org and searching Gift of Life Michigan to learn how you can support the organization and how you can get more information on the organ donor registry here in the state of Michigan. So what are some other things that people should know about the process of being on the registry and the process of organ donation? Because while it's an individual choice, ultimately that's going to be something that's going to be coordinated with the Michigan Organ Donor Registry as well as their family or their loved ones, whoever is there with them at the time of their death.
Yeah, so if you are on the registry, then we work with your family. We would work with the families to say we're going to go about the process of honoring that the family's wish. And we also work with donor families after a gift occurs to help them understand what happened with their loved ones' gifts. Is there a heart recipient whose life was saved? Were their lungs or liver? And in some instances, those family members are interested in learning and meeting the recipient. And we have very moving videos on our YouTube channel and on our website. And if you follow us on social media, these heartwarming stories. We just had a story of Lauren, who was a heart recipient, and she just met her donor mom this past couple of months ago, and we were able to record that meeting. And it was so touching to see the mom put the stethoscope up to Lauren's chest to hear her daughter's heartbeat again, and to know that her daughter saved another person's life because of her wish to be an organ donor. And she said yes, and put her name on the registry. And every single Michigander can do that. But only 58% of Michigan adults have done what you've done, Tyler, done what I've done, and said yes to being on the registry. And other states do better. Other states are in 70% of their population, even greater, who are on the registry. And that's been our biggest challenge. If we're going to save lives and more lives in Michigan, we need more people to just simply say yes. It doesn't mean that anything is going to happen right now. Some people have misconceptions about what that means, that the medical emergency staff isn't going to work as hard to save me, or this is very different than being a living kidney donor. This happens in the rare instances of very particular circumstances of an unavoidable death. And in that circumstance, I would want to know that I could be saving someone else's life. And that's the message we want to get out there. All major religious denominations support organ and tissue donation and see it as the charitable thing to do to support your fellow human in having the opportunity to have life through something that we can each do and add our name to that registry.
More information on their website, giftoflifemichigan.org. That's giftoflifemichigan.org, or by visiting sharedetroit.org as well. We're joined by Patrick Wells O'Brien, the Vice President of Communications and External Relations with Gift of Life Michigan, with us on the Michigan Megacast. So can you talk about the Let's Talk initiative? What is that initiative? What is the goal of that out in the community to raise awareness through Gift of Life Michigan?
That's right. So we have an outreach to multicultural community, to the public at large, to educate people about organ and tissue donation and talk about people's questions, talk about the people who talk with people who have benefited from organ and tissue donation and transplantation. And so we have a series called Let's Talk. It's live streamed on Facebook, and then it's available on our YouTube channel to watch later or on our website. And some of the different programs have included the organ donation process or talking with recipients. We've talked about how you can get more involved in Gift of Life Michigan. It's a designated great place to work, and it's been a wonderful thing to get to know the people who do this every day, and some of the interesting stories that they have about what they've gone through in order to save someone else's life. So there's stories like that on there. And also we talk with religious leaders and we debunk myths, and we also talk about our legislative advocacy.
So we have about a minute or two left with you before we'll say goodbye, Patrick. Can you tell us just a little bit about the Gift of Life's legislative advocacy, and what are some things that you are advocating, your organization's advocating for in the legislative front at this time?
So we just had a successful piece of legislation come through with Representative Felicia Brayback, sponsored a bipartisan bill, and it passed both houses of the Michigan legislature. That doesn't happen very often, and was signed into law by the governor to enable HIV positive organ donors to give to HIV positive recipients. And what that allows is, prior to this, it was not allowable in the state of Michigan for that to happen. And it's part of a federal effort and a federal act, and for Michigan law to become compliant with that, we were able to get that passed. Prior to this, we would recover HIV positive organs, and we would have to send those organs out of the state of Michigan. And so everybody saw that this was a very necessary thing. Even though the numbers are small for this, it's very meaningful, especially if you're a person on the waiting list. And people talk about the waiting list, and it's a waiting list, but there are so many factors that go into having you become matched for an organ donor, that if someone who is HIV positive is able to receive some gift from someone who is HIV positive, it makes room for other people on the list who are waiting. But none of this happens if people don't sign up and register.
Patrick, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks.